what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting?
God, this is such a conflicting topic. I feel like there is...
You're going to go on a roller coaster now, I think, with us because...
Welcome to the roller coaster of Mick and Russ's conflicting opinions.
Because I think we've spoken about this already and we've got very, very conflicting, ideas on it. Like, I think intermittent
Positives
fasting...
and negatives.
First of all, it's similar to what we were talking about earlier when it comes to, like, planning your days, like your meals of the day. When it comes to intermittent fasting, think of it more just like meal timings. But a lot of people with intermittent fasting correlate it with skipping breakfast. And they think if they just skip breakfast, that's intermittent fasting. But the reason that intermittent fasting is a fat loss approach is because it shortens your window of eating food. So let's say you normally eat at 8 a.m. with your first meal and 8 p.m. with your last meal. You've got 12 hours to eat food. If you say to yourself, and it is like your method, I am not going to eat food until 2 p.m. and then I'm going to finish eating food at 8 p.m., you're not going to eat as much food in that time than if you were to eat for 12 hours. You're cutting your window of eating food in half. So high chance is you're going to eat less. And ultimately, when it comes to fat loss, it comes down to calories in versus calories out. So the number of calories in are going to be less if you've got less time to eat food. So that's how it works. Would I recommend it? Probably not. And the main reason I wouldn't recommend it in that extent of like cutting your window down so finely.
Drastically, yeah.
Yeah, and drastically is to start with, if you're looking for fat loss and you're not eating until 2 p.m., you're probably going to be absolutely fucking starving. So when it comes down to calories in versus calories out, in that 6 hours, you might actually eat more food than you normally would because you're going to be so hungry, you're going to binge eat. And it is going to create such a negative relationship with food.
Absolutely. And I can speak, on this from real life experience. I did go through a period of my life where I was an intermittent faster and I literally broke my fast at like 1 p.m. or something. And I stopped eating at 8. But
You've done everything, haven't you? Keto, intermittent fasting.
Literally done everything. I've been there and it did not end well for me. My relationship with food got worse. I was too scared to eat anything in the AM. My energy was shot. My endometriosis was completely out of whack. Like everything was so bad. But more importantly, my relationship with food was horrible because I thought that intermittent fasting was the only way I was going to lose weight and look like everyone else on Instagram.
Yeah, and it in a way demonizes breakfast too. It makes breakfast seem like the worst meal. There is very, very low chance of you getting in the nutrients that you need as well through the day if you're not eating
unless you're
anywhere
an
near as
absolute weapon
much.
And you're just guzzling.
Yeah, unless you're eating like literally just veg, like 10 portions of veg per meal in that time frame. So I think like it's not the best idea, and ultimately all it is cutting down the amount of time that you spend eating food per day to hopefully cut down the amount of calories that you consume. Because a lot of people recommend intermittent fasting over counting your calories. And it all comes down to counting your calories. We know that by now. But a lot of people recommend that because it's an easier way of lowering your calorie intake than having to track your food.
It's also a lot easier way to get an eating disorder.
Literally,
Just to honestly go straight and narrow, black and white to you.
Yeah. And now on the contrary. Okay, so now
we're going to flip it.
Now we're going to flip it. And I'm going to remove the words intermittent fasting and now change that for meal timings or timing my meals. So something that I've done recently being in a deficit is I've changed my eating window and I've changed my meal timings. I would normally have breakfast before our team meeting, which is at 9:15. Now we go to the chiro a couple of times a week, and that's straight after our team meeting at 9:15. And I'm trying to have breakfast at like 10:30, 11. So I'm not shortening my window to the extent of intermittent fasting. And also bear in mind that I do have half a bagel with Biscoff in the morning as my pre-workout meal, and sometimes at 5 a.m. Yeah. And I have a coffee when we go on a walk. So I'm not actually fasting, but what I'm doing is I'm pushing my breakfast back. Even though I am actually hungry at like 8, 9 o'clock as I normally would be, I'm saying to myself, you know what? I'm going to be less hungry in the afternoon. So I'm going to push my meals back a couple of hours. And that ties into the first topic we spoke about earlier with meal timings for the day and like planning out your day. Is if I don't eat my breakfast until 11, I'm probably not going to have my lunch until 2 or 3 instead of 12 or 1. And then I have a snack at 4 or 5 and then dinner at 6 or 7. So I am shortening my window because there's going to be less times in between all of my meals and my snacks where I have the opportunity to be hungry. But I'm not shortening it to the extent of just 6 hours between 2 and 8 in the afternoon. And I'm not cutting out any of my meals. I'm still eating the same number of meals. I'm having, if you were to count snacks as separate meals, which I think you should, I'm having 6 meals a day. If you count my coffee as well, 7 meals a day. Because I'm literally consuming food on 7 different occasions.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that I'm just then doing it spread in different timings to enable me to meet my calorie goals and prevent hunger.
Yeah. I have nothing else to add, Eve.
Oh, great. Well, I was looking at you for a bit of added advice. So
No,
that's me anyway. And welcome to my TED Talk.
I was going to say, welcome to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
No, but I 100% agree with you. I think that intermittent fasting, it gets thrown out there so often these days. And a lot of people can take it down a really negative path.
Yeah.
Like a lot of women, a lot of men have as well. So if you're able to flip the language that you use or the terminology that you use and actually look into it and work out exactly what is intermittent fasting and how is it going to benefit my life, how is it going to make my life easier, then you're making a more informed decision as to if you think that this methodology is going to work for you or not.
Cool. And not to just demonize intermittent fasting, but I got 3 more negatives to hit you with. So first one is if you're shortening
Jesus, negative Nancy over
Sorry,
here.
if you're looking at...
Where were you 6 years ago when I needed this advice?
Well...
Probably in the UK doing something.
Yeah, I was somewhere. So first one, I'm probably going to forget all 3 now. Thanks for cutting in.
Sorry.
First one is if you are obviously looking for intermittent fasting as a fat loss method, you're limiting the amount of time that you can eat. You want to make sure you're retaining as much muscle mass when you're in a deficit as possible. So if you are limiting the amount of time that you are eating, you're limiting the amount of opportunity to increase your protein intake and eat enough protein, which you need to help you maintain and retain as much muscle as possible. Now you've made me forget all of them.
I literally didn't even say anything.
Oh, yeah, you broke in at the start. Well, that's one other problem with intermittent fasting. I was going to give you 3, but
We'll
I've
leave the
forgotten
2 for
other
next
2.
week's episode.
Yeah.
When they come back to him.
Thanks, babe.
I didn't even say anything. I was literally sitting here
No, at
nodding.
the start. You broke it.
That means that you honestly forgot it in like 0.5 seconds.
Yeah, because it was all there ready to go. I was going to go on a ramble. All good. No stress.